Right, well that's the goodbye video done. That's the goodbye video done. This is just a behind the scenes on everything. I figured I would just record a bit of a clip so I can add it to the start of the longer video, the longer montage I probably will have to make when I come back. So yeah, have fun. I guess TheGoldenDragon will take over, and I'll see you guys on the other side. This, my friends, is pretty much everything I've done in 6 months of Skyblock progression. Sit back and enjoy the video. Right, so first off, I was able to complete Genro's quest of gifting gifts to 600 unique people. This quest was only available during the festive period, but it gave me some nice rewards as well as some experience which I put straight into foraging, and you can probably guess why. It's the least exciting skill to level up, but that could change. Anyways, I was here to get a special something and look for a special person. Anery! It turns out I had everything required for a gold gift talisman, though I did leave the most valuable part of this trade on the island in a chest, the golden gift. But using this, I made the trade and secured a new accessory into my accessory bag. One of the big things I aimed to get done during this period was improve my farming ability. At the moment, I had melon armor, which was unlocked at farming level 25. The next best thing was croppy armor, unlocked at level 30. Fortunately, I had already achieved that recently, so after gathering a few bits and pieces, I was able to craft the full croppy set. And I didn't really know how to feel about how this set looked. Like, I much preferred the melon set, to be fair, though it was using First Sky as a texture pack, so it could look better without one. Derpy was actually also in term at this point, and since I'd opened a lot of gifts, I had quite a few farming XP potions to help boost my progress even more. They would definitely come in handy. Though whilst I was farming, I had a very interesting visitor arrive on the garden for the 3rd time. It was Beth, of course, and according to the wiki, once she visited the garden 3 times, I would be given some sort of coordinates to a place in the mushroom cave. This was quite interesting, and at first I bought the materials and accepted the offer, and then in return she gave me some coordinates like the wiki said. So I travelled to the mushroom island and entered the mushroom cave, where I found the block to investigate. Beneath this was apparently a secret lab, which I was told to report to Beth the next time she visited. It had some very concerning things, to say the least. A day later I was minding my own business and about to casually play some dungeons when some guild members came across and forced me to learn how to stunk. Basically how to cheese dungeon secrets. Yeah, well, they were trying to do this for a while now, so I finally caved in and bought a silverfish pet, which gave me some more mining speed, which would be helpful in cheesing these dungeon secrets. I was also told to buy the stonk pickaxe from the end shop, which was an item with efficiency 6 on it. This essentially allowed me to break quick enough to access the secrets through walls. So to test this out, we entered floor 6 and we found a trap room which I could try this mechanic in, except I'd sold all my ender pearls. Unfortunately, I was saved from stupidity because there were some in my combat sack which I could use and give this a proper go. Ender pearls just made the whole thing a lot easier. I could use them to get to a specific position just below the chest, and this allowed me to mine the blocks just below it. And if you made a ghost pickaxe by kind of swapping the pickaxe between 2 slots very quickly, you could trick the server in thinking that the blocks were permanently broken. That way, accessing the chests was so much easier. I still don't know a great deal about this, but yeah, it was at least nice to know, I guess. Jumping forward a few more days, I decided to take farming a bit more seriously and blow a whole plot to bedrock. Yes, that was right. I blew a whole plot to bedrock. But now using this giant empty bedrock plot, I could build myself a giant 1 plot pumpkin farm, specially made to increase farming productivity. I used a design by this creator and it worked out really well for me because I wasn't at the stage where I was comfortable in unlocking several plots and making a huge mega farm, which people normally do at my stage. So thanks to him, my farming progress took a huge boost because I was farming way more pumpkins a lot more efficiently. The time it takes to make these farms, although it's long, it's very worth it in the long run. I mean, having first-hand experience, this helped me massively, not only in experience, but also in gaining money. And talking about money, after like an hour of farming in this plot, I made around 4 million, which I thought was pretty cool, but my guildmates had other opinions. Oh, and in between all this, I also managed to find the Dragon's Den for the second time. I really do hope that when it finally comes to the day I want to search for this dragon, I can find it and not have to spend days searching for it. Coming back to farming, I also secured another talisman by grinding out some more farming contests and claiming Anita's artifact, which was yet another rare accessory to add to my accessory bag. I then reached farming level 35, which allowed me to craft and use the next farming armor. I also realized accepting visitors was quite important to do if you wanted to progress properly and progress fast, and although it required spending some money, it was definitely beneficial in the early stages. And talking about spending money, I had quite a lot to spend to craft this next set. The farming pumpkins had helped me gather quite a lot of the materials. The squash set was the penultimate set before reaching Fermento, the best farming set Skyblock can currently offer. But I would probably have to say this looked even worse than the previous set. Like, why are there 5 holes in the mask? I don't have 4 eyes. At least I hope I don't. But anyways, this set gave me around 630 farming fortune, so it was a slight improvement from the previous set. And this was around the time when I discovered a mod called Sky Honey. And boy, did Sky Honey make the whole farming experience so much easier to manage. I definitely did not need all those features, but the 2 most useful ones were the contest timer at the top and the mouse lock feature, which was especially good when you wanted to farm for long periods of time. But apart from farming, I was also doing some mining too. I mean, why not? I did manage to complete a couple of nucleus runs. I did some while working on the commissions, and I got some pretty good loots out of it, like a Devon fragment and a Jaderald. Is that how you pronounce them? I have no idea, because apparently I misspell a lot of things in this game. Like bestiary? Apparently it's spelled bestiary. I guess it does involve beasts, but like...
Bestiary.
Yeah, maybe it's just because I'm British. Anyways, back to farming, I found myself searching the auction house for a fungi cutter, which was, well, used to farm fungi or mushrooms, because apparently mushrooms were the best for experience, and if I wanted anything, I probably wanted experience the most. I did buy one previously, but apparently according to the farming pros, it wasn't very good, so I swapped it out with another one, which was hopefully a lot better. Oh, and guess what? I decided to go to the mines again, and I found another dragon's lair. Like, seriously, I swear these will be as rare as anything when I finally need one. But jumping over to the rift this time, yeah, I know there'll be quite a few cuts in this video to different sections, but just bear with me. I decided to complete Gunther's race, which I was procrastinating on ever since I went into the rift in that area, and it definitely took some time. I received a lichen for my efforts once the race was done, and I could use this lichen to upgrade my boots to Gunther's sneakers. This was the start of some necessary rift upgrades I would need to use and have to give myself the best chance of progression in the final parts of this dimension. Meanwhile, the mining was going really well. I had completed another nucleus run with the intentions of reaching Heart of the Mountain tier 6. I returned back to the rift and talked to the transfigured Seraphine, very weird, but I traded in my Agarika's Cap. Oh my word, there are so many weird names in the rift. Anyways, it was a trade for the de-transfigured face, an upgrade of my previous helmet. I also upgraded my boots for the comfy sneakers I'd purchased from Seymour using Gunther sneakers into a snake inner boot, which was my first maxed rift upgrade. The armor was looking a lot better than it previously was, but there was a lot more work to do. After this, I decided to jump back into farming and focus on creating a single plot mushroom farm for me to use, and it was here I made a grave mistake. I wanted to repaste my mushroom plot with the bedrock preset I'd made earlier, but I selected the wrong plot, and once I realized, it was too late. I had just destroyed the pumpkin farm I'd spent hours making in 2 clicks, and I hadn't even saved it as a preset. I was shattered. There was no way to fix this. I had to watch the whole thing strip itself away, line by line, in front of my very own eyes. Yeah, these are the pains of being a farmer, I guess. But I think in actual fact, this was a blessing in disguise, because after removing the 2 plots to bedrock, I just had 2 more in the way of me creating a proper mega farm that I said earlier I wouldn't do, and it would stretch the whole length of the garden. I decided the best course of action as a result was to do just that. I bought some compost, unlocked some plots, and got down to work. Eventually, the plots were removed, and the layout was ready to install the mega farms I'd planned to now build. I visited some gardens to get some perspective on what they would turn out to be, and they were enormous. I only required a pumpkin and mushroom row for now, so I gathered some materials and got down to business. I created the pumpkin and melon farm first, and then started working on the mushroom farm second, until both of their first plot sections were completed. I then copied and pasted the plots to full length of the garden, because these sections were just repeated until the end. Both these farm designs were by Sun Tzu and Melon King, if you are curious, but I got them from just searching the keywords into YouTube, and apparently these two are really good at farming, so these farms should be hopefully really effective. Then was the process of planting the seeds and finishing off the farm, and just so I didn't plant the pumpkin seeds incorrectly, I also asked help from Hen, who I'd say is a professional gardener, and I pretty much got all my gardening advice from him, but apparently you had to plant the seeds quickly using the basket of seeds on both sides of the farm as they meet in the middle, and this stops the crops growing to the side and ruining the planting. Fortunately for me, the planting went just fine, and the pumpkin plot was up and running. I also finished off the mushroom farm and gave it a try, and it worked really well. The pumpkin farm was also a lot more efficient, so if you want some tips on how to garden for me, then just make custom designs, because that's the way to go. Even if you spend time, in the long run they will help massively, and I can testify to that. The farming angles could also be quite specific, so I wrote them down, and that was the 2 farms pretty much complete. From then on, my farming was in full swing, and my next target was farming level 40. With this mushroom farm, hopefully it wouldn't take ages. Though farming wasn't the only focus, I was also trying to do some experiments almost daily, so I decided to pick up and buy a guardian pet because it increased my enchanting experience, which would be quite handy in leveling up the skill to max. I also would later go ahead and upgrade this to mythic to give you more chance of dropping super rare enchantments, which of course could be worth a lot, and it was an option I would take. Back in the mines, the daily commissions were really paying off, because I had now reached Heart of the Mountain tier 6, and mining was turning out to be quite a reasonable option to take. But this new milestone meant that I could finally get rid of the pick and nimbus I was using for so long and switch to a permanent option, and apparently one of the best value upgrades in the mining progression, the gemstone gauntlet. And I can't lie, it did look really good. I ended up buying one from the auction house for 16 million, and oh my word, it had so much on it, it was insane. The mining experts still called it decent, so it probably wasn't the best you could get for this price, despite all the glamour. It was really nice to use though, and it wasn't as quick as a pick and nimbus I don't think, but it was better in pretty much every other aspect. And I was finally happy you could break topaz with this thing, because my topaz commission was stuck at halfway for ages now, and I could finally get it done. It also had some nice knockback, which was very handy indeed. Now moving on with garden progression, Beth had arrived for the 4th time, so upon interacting with her, she prompted me to go back to the cave to see what was up. After climbing down the ladder once again, she was there to meet me. I won't take you through the whole storyline so I don't bore you out your minds, but Jake happened to appear out of nowhere and he gave me a plushie, which I could use to store as an accessory. Apparently he was making toys for animals in this lab, which was really strange indeed, but I guess it's just part of the lore. It's a shame these storylines are kind of fragmented, if you know what I mean, because I rarely ever encounter a cutscene like this, and when I do, I don't even know why. So maybe that's something Skyblock can look into, or maybe it's too late, but it would be nice if there was like a solid quest line to follow and some good story development. Otherwise you can be quite lost just grinding the endless game and burning yourself out. At least that's my opinion, but Skyblock is meant to be an endless game, so I guess that's just how it is. And all stories do have to come to an end, but maybe there is some middle ground. Anyways, back to farming. I made some good progress with mushrooms. I was currently level 38, and I was achieving platinum quite frequently, albeit mushroom was the easiest to get platinum in, so it wasn't that impressive, but it was quite a good step in the right direction. Whilst farming mushrooms, I also dropped some burrowing spores, which are really useful items I could apply reforges to on my Lotus equipment, giving me some more farming fortune, and who doesn't want farming fortune as a farmer? Jerry was also the mayor, so we had quite a few Jerry boxes collected, as well as a lot of Jerry tickets from all those contests I'd farmed during. And eventually I'd farmed enough to reach farming level 40, and this is where I streamed live to you guys and we crafted the final farming set. There we go! Fermento leggings and carpentry level up too, so now we do have the entire Fermento, wait, not the entire Fermento set, but just enough. So we are now pro? Question mark? Pro? Are we pro? We're not pro yet. We're not pro yet. We have to do a lot of things, but hey, there we go. This was a huge occasion because it was another giant leap in my ability. I applied the burrowing spores to the largest equipment and the base was now set. It did not look like a big jump at all, only getting me to 655 farming fortune, but I didn't realize there was a lot more you could do to increase farming fortune other than the Fermento set. It was just the starting point, and after contemplating the move into dungeons with purchasing a Wither set, I ended the stream there. 2 days later, I come on to do an experiment and get my first rare bug, and as well as that, my guardian pet reached level 100. Not long after that, I started the dungeons arc and bought myself a Wither Skeleton pet. It was specially attributed for the Wither Skeletons only appearing in floor 7, and that was the only floor I was planning to do for now, so it would benefit me greatly according to everyone's information. The only thing I realized was that it was a mining pet, so leveling it up was not the best experience. I was on the way to Heart of the Mountain tier 7, so it wouldn't be too bad, but in hindsight I should probably have gone for a better one with a higher level, because getting experience from mining is a pain to do. It was all well and good getting this pair, but I knew to properly run floor 7 it required better armor than Shadow Assassin and a better weapon than the Livid Dagger. The weapon of choice I was aiming to get was the Shadow Fury, which would be dropped from the floor 5 chest. I made the choice to run this floor during the next week and see where it took me, and after 73 completions of that floor, I finally dropped the weapon. The Shadow Fury was now unlocked. This was a huge profit when comparing it to the price in the auction house, which was one of the main reasons I opted to try and drop it rather than just buy it. I gave it a test inside of a dungeon to see how well it would do. I was quite excited to use it, but I had to say it was a bit disappointing. Of course, it was just a base weapon. It didn't have any enchantments or any attributes just yet compared to the Livid Dagger, so it had a lot more potential yet to fulfill. I did a lot more testing with the weapon, and although its ability was an interesting feature, it became a real pain because right-clicking anything would teleport you away to the nearest mob and it wouldn't return you, which was probably the only frustrating part about it. The rest of it was pretty nice and pretty expected, but now it was time to give it all the upgrades to make it a worthy weapon. In order to do this, I could either manually apply it all or use the hex, which I was yet to actually unlock, and apply them all using one interface. The hex, however, required a museum value of 100 million to unlock, so to get there temporarily, some guild members traded me salmon hats. Yeah, I have no idea why these are worth so much, but they were enough to get me to the prosperous museum rank. With this, I could now apply and use the hex, and I've gotta say, they weren't kidding when they said everything was easier to apply. It really was. So I did just that, apply a bunch of things to it, and voila! Pretty much everything I could get on it was on it, except for an ultimate enchantment, which is where the controversy would lie. It was either Swarm or Soul Eater. Soul Eater was way more expensive than Swarm, which is the only reason why I really avoided it, but everything else about it made it seem the better enchantment. However, apparently if I could kill the mobs in floor 7 in one hit without any ultimate enchantments already, Swarm was better because Soul Eater applied extra damage after a mob was killed. If you can already one-tap mobs, then why apply extra damage if it doesn't really affect anything? So for now, the bonus from Swarm was the best option for me, and especially good when dealing damage to bosses, until I get to the stage where I can no longer one-shot mobs, like in Master Mode, but we'll get there eventually. But I could clearly one-tap mobs in F7, so with the Shadow Fury, I decided to apply Swarm on it until a switch was later necessary. Next on the list of F7 things was a Spirit Pet, which was probably the most worthwhile thing because I happened to die quite a lot. This pet just helped reduce the amount of impact a death had on the score of the run whilst it was in your pet menu. I then tried to find some Necron armor in the auction house, as it was probably the next best set for me to get since I already had the Shadow Fury, which pretty much made me a berserker, and funnily enough ended up getting half the set, which was the leggings and the chestplate from a guild member himself who had previously found them, and I had said I wanted to find some more options myself, so this was a bit awkward, but half the set was complete. As for for the helmet, apparently it was cheaper to find a Wither helmet, which I found with growth 6 already on it, and convert it to Necron using some diamantase handles, which is what I ended up doing, as well as applying some few basic things on it like stars and the enchantments. According to the other people I spoke to, the golden head I would get from completing 100 runs in the floor would be better than the current Necron helmet in dungeons, so I wouldn't need to apply much onto this one. And finally, I found some Maxor boots, and they were apparently better than Necron boots, at least in floor 7. And that was the full Necron set ready for me to enter floor 7. So before that, I went back to the mines to claim my last commissions to achieve Heart of the Mountain tier 7. And we had quite a few tokens to spend, but that was probably going to be for later because we were about to enter floor 7 with the Necron gear. Except just before we entered, we bought a Wither cloak to help survive the floor even better. It would definitely be worth the purchase since it basically gave you invulnerability for a few seconds. Running the first floor 7 since buying this set was a lot easier than any of my Shadow Assassin runs previously. Of course, I felt a lot more powerful, but survivability was still kind of an issue. This was where the Wither cloak started to shine, especially during the gold ore phase where the lava was a nightmare to handle. Moving on from these runs, I decided to secure 4 more pieces of equipment to help me run the floor 7, the adaptive belt, the Shadow Assassin cloak, the balloon snake, and the Soul Weaver gloves. And using the hex, we upgraded them as much as we could and applied some reforges to make them fit for purpose. This was the final dungeon set, and if you ask me, it was a very big upgrade. But most importantly, I felt safer playing floor 7, and of course, I still died many times, but there was definitely a lot of progress. I even decided to learn how to use a Jerry Chan gun in order to complete the first floor 7 phase, otherwise known as the Maxor phase, which involved picking up and placing end crystals in the correct positions to take down the boss. You basically had to shoot down in the corner of a pillar to launch yourself upwards, and if you had enough mana and a good enough connection, the crystal was yours to take. Though on most occasions, the crystal was not mine to take. Floor after floor after floor, practice after practice, eventually I was able to master the skill and take down and place a crystal. The mana capacity and regeneration were the only problems when attempting the maneuver, but apart from that, if you got the shots right, you get the crystal in good time. Amidst all these runs, we also obtained the General's Medallion from a secret room in a run, and since I had no more space in my accessory bag, I had to go and trudge over to Jacobus in the Thaumaturgist for the first time actually to unlock a few more spaces and fit the medallion in. Whilst I was in the hub, I also bought to consume my second god potion to help me progress my farming skill a lot faster, during which my mushroom cow leveled up to 100 so I could replace its skill XP boost with a green bandana to increase my farming fortune to 835, which was a lot higher than previously. Talking about maxing out, we also maxed out our enchanting skill a few days later, and I think that's my first ever level 60 skill, so that's a nice achievement, albeit it was probably the easiest skill to level up. And on that note, I also obtained the most valuable enchantment yet, Grove 6, and just like that, an easy 5 million coins. Back on the garden, I was close to reaching 500 visitors accepted for an upgrade in farming fortune for my Lotus equipment, in which they would all upgrade to 10 each. Along with that, I also claimed some contests from Jacob and sold the profits to get some additional farming fortune from Anita. I also realized there were some accessory upgrades I could make to increase my fortune even more, and the squash ring looked like a very good purchase, so I crafted the base croppy talisman and upgraded it using some squash to craft the ring, which gave a lot of bonus fortune for each specific crop. Very helpful indeed. The spooky event was not long after with Mayor Marina, and apparently these two mixed together was quite a good event, so I took the opportunity to buy an ammonite pet and see how fishing would turn out. And I must say, this was not very eventful at all. Even when I joined up with a player who had persuaded me to try it out, I still didn't get anything, probably because I was still too low of a fishing level. The plan was just to sit around, and as soon as the fishing festival started, the guy would pull something up and I would try and deal enough damage to get some loot share of his drops, of which I got nothing decent. What was decent though was my farming level, as I reached level 44 the next day, and I was told about the Acacia Birdhouse. This was a reforge and it was very expensive but gave you very high strength, and subsequently the Mushroom Cow, because of its perks, would give you more farming fortune. It wasn't very effective for me because I did not have as much magical power as some people did, and the more you had, the more effective this would be. Oh, and just like that, the god potion had expired. It was scarily quick, but I think we'd use it to the best potential possible because we were almost halfway to level 50 already. Jumping Going back to the mines, I decided to spend some of these tokens instead of letting them sit there unused. Everyone suggested investing into abilities to help me collect lots of powder and uncover lots of chests, so I unlocked the pathways to enable me to do just that, whilst dumping a lot of my powder reserves into Powder Buff, Mole, Mining Fortune and Great Explorer. Finding chests and picking their locks was suddenly a lot easier, and dare I say it, mining was actually looking quite fun. But I knew to go down that path I would need to do a lot more than just this. In the meantime, I was making quite some good money whilst farming pumpkins, but I knew that I couldn't stick with it for too long, and I wanted to try out farming melons instead, so I did a quick browse in the auction house and bought a melon dicer to give it a go. I first upgraded its thunder level just for 2 million coins and gave it a lot more farming fortune in return. I then unlocked and cleaned a new row on the garden to put down this melon farm. Fortunately, it was just a copy and paste of the pumpkin farm with the same design, and before you knew it, I had a functioning melon farm ready for operation. Pests were still an issue though, and they were really frustrating during any contest. I didn't realize it existed before, but I bought myself a pest repellent max and tried to benchmark my melon fortune without the bother of pests and with other people during a melon contest. At the moment I could only muster a silver, but that was probably because melons was one of the most participated contests out of them all, or everyone involved had a stupidly high farming fortune compared to me. I also managed to drop an atmospheric filter, which was a very interesting accessory because in some seasons you benefit, in other seasons it was a nuisance. I didn't even have any space to store it in my accessory bag, so I had to go to Jacobus again, except this time I decided to be a bit smarter and purchased 20 million worth of upgrades so I could also obtain the Jacobus register, which was a legendary accessory. Whether you call that smart, I don't know, but I guess it was a positive and saved me having to return for a good while. Also, are there supposed to be rats outside the thaumaturgists? That was very strange. Anyways, we had quite a beefy accessory bag now, and since everyone stresses this bag so much, hopefully it will be of benefit as we progress even further. Around this time, Hypixel also added a new area to the Dwarven Mines, the Glassite Tunnels, though I wanted to save this experience for when I could return and record properly. We have that to look forward to. I also carried on with some dungeons, and it's fair to say some dungeon parties were really quite toxic. Especially this one. It was probably the first time I properly experienced this sort of reaction from some people who wanted the best out of every floor but couldn't accept anyone who failed or who tried their hardest to help. But I mean, his point was valid. Maybe he isn't toxic, because who would want to play with someone so inexperienced at this floor? It was the harsh reality of learning dungeons I hadn't really been exposed to. I'm very lucky to have guild members and people around me to guide me through runs and take the weight when I'm having a bad day, but this scenario made me realize that many ordinary people like you guys could be facing this during your progression through the floors. It was a grim scenario to think of this being reality, but it was probably an experience you had to fight through in order to overcome. Grind more and just get better was what seemed to me the simplest way of putting this. Though on the brighter side, Mayor Derby was about to be elected, and this time I wanted to be more prepared and make most of his term. I decided to work on alchemy like I did previously, but this time get it to maximum level. In order for this to happen, apparently I would need 615 enchanted golden blocks, 615 brewing stands, equally as many brewing ingredients, 3 times as many bottles, a god potion, 3 sheep heads to level up in the meantime, and a whole lot of patience. And when I mean patience, I mean this was a struggle. I had to open the interface of the brewing stand and shift click the items into its slot 615 times, and then do it 615 more times and 615 more times after that. Not to mention how annoying it was to fill up the water bottles. But the nice thing was I found a trick which made use of the stash to store the water bottle for overflow instead of having to place down water every so often and restock the bottles on every occasion. This way I just had to click a button in chat and my inventory would instantly be full of bottles to use. And I almost forgot about the life-saving trick whereby if you had an abaphone you could add the lumber merchant to your contact, and essentially you could use the menu after calling him using the abaphone to trade the potions you had, giving you money and saving you so much time. But eventually it was done. The ordeal was finished and alchemy was finally maxed out, and almost 3 sheep heads were leveled up to the max in the process. This derpy period was very successful. Along with that, I also leveled up to farming 48 and and ran some more floor 7 to reach a pretty good catacomb level. And not long after that we reached farming 49 with the boost of Derpy, and we hit the limit of 250 million coins in the bank. So I finally decided to upgrade to the super deluxe account, which was just in time because I got my first ultra rare book as well. Maybe that Guardian upgrade was worth it after all. And on the same day I finally unlocked farming level 50, so I guess you could say I was quite experienced along with all the help my server and guild gave me during the break. Especially Hen, it was nice to see him here to witness the occasion. Also, it turns out you can put gemstones on pretty much everything, including the farming armor, and I felt quite stupid I didn't do that before. And I think these gemstones weren't available before the Glassite Tunnels update, so I think these were relatively new. What was also new was this idle chocolate factory thing in Skyblock, which I never thought would actually happen. Hoppity was the guy's name who introduced you to it, and it was basically like Cookie Clicker. To start off with, you would just spam the click button in the center, and then you'd gradually employ rabbits to do the work for you. It was quite useful to get started because this was around the time when I had to try and take my examinations more seriously, so I wasn't able to get online very much. I was told more about this Hoppity event though, and apparently in certain places you can find rabbits, which could add multipliers to your factory to produce chocolate a tiny bit faster. At the moment for me it was quite unnecessary because I had bigger priorities to focus on, but it was good to be aware of. And the next few weeks involved very little really, since I was in the midst of exam season, but I did manage to achieve cultivating 10 on my melon dicer to add even more fortune. I also managed to prestige my chocolate factory a few times when I checked in after being offline for a good number of days. On top of that, we also got farming level 51, but to claim this I had to actually visit Anita and use one of my unique gold medals to increase my farming level cap. This is because after level 50 there are 10 more levels to go until the maximum farming level, but you need 10 unique gold medals in 10 unique crops to unlock level 60. Not long after this, Skyblock had its 5th anniversary, so I claimed my very own balloon hats, and it was the perfect color. And just before I left for the week of my examinations, I spent my accumulated chocolate in the chocolate factory and prestiged for the last time, whilst also completing my daily experiment. I then said goodbye and hoped for the best. What? That is a lot of outdated mods. Oh my word. I'll probably do this later. Yes! Yes! We're in! Oh my word, we're back. Well, my recording kind of screwed up after this, as you can see, so here is my actual return speech. Right, so yeah, we are basically free. It hasn't really hit me yet, but we are free. I'm free from exams, I've done them all, so hopefully we can get back to grinding Skyblock and maybe exploring everything we can. I'll definitely need some help though from some people around me, but should be fine. So yeah, I'll keep this short and sweet. I'll see you in hopefully a video coming near you very soon.